Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back Lisa Stone.
Everybody. Hi, everyone. It is an absolute honor and pleasure to introduce award-winning journalist, soon-to-be talk show host, and best-selling author Katie Couric. Welcome to BlogHer, Katie. Welcome. Welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Hi everyone. Wow. I was going to say I love the smell of estrogen in the morning. There's a lot of estrogen in this room. Hey Lisa, nice to see you. And also, by the way, I found this little thing outside on the sidewalk as I was coming into some little sparkly silver unicorn. Literally. And I guess you guys have been partying big time, huh? Right? So I'm going to keep that.
I couldn't believe it. It was like destiny. You walked out of the car and it was literally on your foot.
I thought it was a real silver charm and I was very excited. And then I realized it was one of those glitter things.
So before we get started, I wanted to mention, in order to get as many of your questions answered as possible, if you have one, please tweet @KatieShow, @BlogHer, and Momo will text me questions as they come in, okay? So, Katie.
Yes, Lisa.
A new show.
Yeah.
This is on September 10th, you'll launch your new show in the afternoon day part. It is the only day part left that you haven't dominated. Why are you doing this? What's going on?
I don't know about that. And I guess I'm not sure if I'm trying to be a daytime dominatrix or not. But, you know, I'm very excited. I think this is a new chapter for me, a new beginning, a new adventure. And I'm just really thrilled to be in a venue where I can really be myself. And I think in terms of what I bring to the table, my skill set is really interacting with people, trying to sort of distill complicated topics, trying to really get the best out of people when I'm talking with them and doing an interview with them, and trying to deliver really useful information to the public. So the idea of being able to start from scratch, to have a blank canvas, and to be able to create a 1-hour show where I can spend an hour, if I feel it's justified, on any given topic or talking to a newsmaker or celebrity, it's just really exciting for me. And the idea that I have sort of, I want it to feel like a community, very much like you guys are a community. I want it to feel like an inclusive conversation with a lot of different points of view, but most importantly, I want to respect the audience, because I feel like there are a lot of smart women out there who aren't really finding enough fare, really anywhere sometimes on television. I think a lot of subjects are getting short shrift. And I think, see, all the smart women are clapping. Come on, I think we should hear a bigger round of applause for that from you guys. But, you know, I have really smart friends who are very engaged and interested and curious. And sometimes I just don't know if they're being served quite enough with the current fare that's being offered. That's not to say a lot of people aren't doing great shows that are really fun to watch and interesting and entertaining, but I think there's always room for more, and always room for more smart conversations about a whole wide variety of topics. And I think, you know, the idea of flexing my muscles and being able to explore, you know, do an hour interview with someone like Hillary Clinton about her role as Secretary of State and what she's learned along the way, doing something on military suicides, which happen at a rate of 1 a day, you know, and post-traumatic stress, and what is actually working, and are we serving our veterans as well as we should be? But also doing fun topics too, and you know, we're doing a whole show on hair, which I think is going to be sort of fun and interesting. Oh, you like that down there, all right. Well, and so, you know, sometimes we'll do lighter topics, sometimes more fun. I have you know, I think because of my personal life experiences, you know, I've learned a lot along the way, but I feel like I still have so much to learn. And whether it's raising teenage daughters, which is, as you know, really difficult, or caring for an aging parent, which I'm doing with my own mom. My dad passed away last summer, and so, my siblings and I are trying to do our best with helping our mom. To over-parenting, that's my new obsession, sort of this whole notion that we're all doing too much for our kids and raising a generation of really young people who don't have enough of a sense of purpose. So I'm interested in that topic and cultural trends and how technology is affecting our relationships. The fact that 1 in 4 couples over the age of 50 are now divorcing. I think it was 1 in 10 back in the early 90s. And so that brings up the whole topic of, creating a new life for yourself after divorce or, after you become a widow, as I became when I was 41. So, there are so many different things that I think we all kind of are interested in, even if it may not be happening to us personally. I think a lot of people can relate to the topics we're going to be exploring on the show.
Well, I mean, you're mentioning everything from PTSD to widowhood and the multimedia format that you and I were discussing backstage and the way you're planning to use social media. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? Because I think it's pretty innovative. I mean, it's really built in.
Well, I think that I feel like social media, I can't even call it new media anymore, but social media obviously is here to stay. And I'm someone who comes from traditional media who's really tried to embrace it, because I started doing it when I was at CBS, because doing the evening news was really a privilege for me, and I felt very honored to be sitting in a chair that was once occupied by Walter Cronkite. And so I was absolutely thrilled. Plus I thought it was a very important symbol, not only for young women, but for young men, to see that a woman on her own could do that job competently and confidently.
Yeah, first woman to helm a primetime news show and helm the hour herself.
But having said that, it was a half-hour format, which means 22 minutes. We had to get all the news of the day in. If I had time to ask one reporter a question, they had 15 seconds to answer, and I'd be, thank you very much, and on to the next thing, even though I probably had a lot more questions that I wanted to ask. But I think when I was doing that job, I felt a little separated from, people in the audience. And I think unlike the Today Show, where, people used to come up to me and say, I feel like I know you. And I would say, well, you actually do. You've seen me have 2 kids on TV. You've seen me lose my husband to cancer and my sister to cancer. You've seen me in situations that have been very difficult in terms of interviewing people who've gone through, experienced tragedy. You've seen me fly across the plaza as Peter Pan. I mean, you've kind of seen all sides of me, and so you really do. But I didn't feel that connection when I did the evening news with people, because it was so, people, when they first started watching me, I think they thought I had a lobotomy or something, because I never smiled, and I couldn't really be that animated, and I'm kind of a naturally, as you can tell, animated person. And so I started doing Twitter because it was really fun for me to hear from people. And then I started doing a web show, a web-only interview show once a week, because I could have this kind of experience and this kind of interaction and pick the subject I wanted to talk about. And it gave me it was very creatively liberating in a way. So I really enjoy social media, and I think I don't understand when people in my business aren't kind of jumping in full, feet first, because I think a lot of people are just a little uncomfortable with the whole notion. But when I think about, Lisa, how much television news has changed since I started doing it in 1979, it is just amazing. I mean, it's amazing. I don't know if you all saw the clip where Brian and I are talking about the internet. It is so embarrassing. But it was in 1994, and we're like, what is this internet thing? What does that A thing mean? I'm like, I think it means about. I don't really know. And we sounded like such idiots. But I think most of you probably wouldn't have answered that question very well in 1994 either, maybe. Unless you, So, but I really want social media to be a part of this new show. I don't want it to be an afterthought. I don't want things repurposed on the website. So we've created a website which is a standalone, very vibrant place where people can go, and it's going to just get bigger and bigger, we hope, where we can hear from people. We can put all sorts of different things on there, whether it's clips from the show, but it might be an article that I find interesting, or what I'm wearing that day, or who made my shoes, whatever. And where it's a really fun, vibrant place. And we're also going to have two seats for female bloggers at every show.
Fantastic.
To be in our studio
Fantastic.
audience. Because we want them to reach out to their community. We want to hear what the community is saying, whether if it's a specific, for example, if we're doing a military issue, it would be great to get input from some of the military bloggers out there, and to hear from them about some of the things. And this is an incredible resource for somebody like me to, we used to get letters when I started at the Today Show, letters from viewers saying this, that, and the other thing, often criticizing my hair, but that's okay. And, but now we can get instant feedback, we can solicit guests, we can get ideas, what are people talking about, what is their point of view on any given subject, and it's just a tremendous resource. So we're going to be doing the show every day at 2 in the afternoon. It airs in some markets at 2 and others at 3 and others at 4. But we're going to solicit questions on Twitter and Facebook in the morning, so we can hear from real people and what they want to know and what they want to explore on any given day. And that's something I played with at CBS, but sometimes traditional media is a little reticent to embrace social media in a really kind of real way. But for example, when the oil spill in the Gulf took place, sometimes get so into the weeds and into the nitty-gritty, you forget to ask the experts questions like, how much oil is down there? And so we would get sometimes, I think, some of the best questions when I reached out on Twitter and asked people for their, what they wanted to know.
Yeah, you really did use Twitter a lot when you were at CBS, increasingly, and you've been very active on both @KatieShow, and is @KatieShow where people should suggest story ideas?
Yeah,
volunteer them?
Yeah, or just @KatieCouric, but
Okay.
@KatieShow, if you tweet us and you guys want to come and be part of our studio audience, either as somebody who has a blog or just somebody who wants to come see the show, you can go to @KatieCouric to our website. But if you want to, I think there's no way to kind of record that right now. So if you just want to tweet the @KatieShow and give us your information, we can start getting people involved. And we're doing test shows next week, which is really exciting. They just finished the studio. I think they still have a few kinks to iron out, but it's really exciting. And it's 140 people in the audience. People are really close, and it's very intimate. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and I hope it will have some impact as well.
Well, let's take a look. I think we have a clip.
Oh, okay.
Are you ready for this day?
I've always felt I've been able to connect with people watching. I am the ultimate people person.
What we're going to do is let Katie be Katie.
Ready for this day? You're getting stronger every step you take.
Katie's also a brand. She's got instant recognition with the viewers. When you say Katie, you know exactly who you're talking about.
I'm just wondering why you got top billing.
We're gonna find it in our heartbeat, beat, moving through a crowd of steel. We're on our way.
Katie is uniquely positioned to really bring smart talk into daytime television once again.
There's a tremendous opportunity for us to create a new and exciting program with someone who we've all
Don't say grown up with. That song, our theme song, was written and sung by Sheryl Crow, who I love, who to me kind of epitomizes just a great modern woman who's gone through a lot of different things in terms of breast cancer, and now she's dealing with this benign brain tumor, adopted 2 little boys. She's one of the greatest people. She's so nice and she's so talented. And so I reached out to her and said, do you think you could maybe put together a theme song? And we actually sat down and talked about what the show was going to be about and what kind of issues we wanted to talk about and what kind of environment we wanted to create. And I really love the words of the song. I love the fact that it's upbeat and positive and optimistic, and I'm just thrilled she was able to do that. And, you know, hopefully she'll come on and talk about that and a lot of other things as well.
You know, you mentioned cancer, and it makes me think about how giving you've been willing to be with your own experience and the loss of your husband. You've done so much as a journalist, but when you went on the air to have a colonoscopy,
Did you feel very close to me?
I did.
'Cause I felt very
Closer than
close
I
to
had
you.
anticipated.
Yeah. Well, you know, I felt when this happened to Jay, it was so out of the blue and such a, you can imagine what a shock this was to have a 41-year, my husband at 41, be diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. And he had been healthy, was athletic,
Oh, yeah.
and took care of himself. I don't think he ever even smoked a cigarette. And so it was life-shattering. And when I think the loss of control you feel when someone you love is sick and there's just nothing you can do about it, especially if you're a can-do person and very solution-oriented. And they're just, you know, ultimately, there was just nowhere to go for Jay. So when he passed away in January of 1998, I had this incredible forum, the Today Show, and this platform from which I could explain to people that this is really highly curable, 90% cure, 92% cure rate if it's detected early. So I really felt like I had a responsibility, having experienced what I had gone through, to educate the people who are watching the Today Show. And, you know, I certainly didn't do it for ratings, and but I think it did have an impact because colonoscopies went up 20% after I did that, and I think the mortality rate for colon cancer has gone down too. So, but I'm really excited about Stand Up to Cancer, and I don't know if you all have heard about that, but this is an organization that I started with 8 other crazy women. We always say hell hath no fury, like some women pissed off at the pace of cancer research or cancer progress. So we actually established this in 2006, and we're having our 3rd big TV event on September 8th.
2 days before your show
Yeah,
launches.
2 days, and I'm trying to figure out if I can actually be there. It might be tough for me, but we have raised $180 million for cancer
Wow.
research. Yeah.
$180 million.
Yeah, but I think what's really exciting about Stand Up to Cancer is we're kind of changing the paradigm of cancer research. I think, like anything, you know, everything's political in this world. It's so frustrating, and sometimes cancer research can also be very territorial and proprietary. So our mandate is these scientists have to collaborate, or, you know, in order to receive these research dollars. So we have a pancreatic cancer dream team that's comprised of people from the University of Arizona and MD Anderson and all these different, and sometimes pharmaceutical companies or biotech firms, and all their scientists and researchers are actually working together and collaborating and using their accumulated knowledge and experience and wisdom and sometimes tissue samples to try to move science forward faster. And they're actually starting to come up to make real progress. So to me, it is so exciting to see cancer research take a step forward because, you know, one person dies every minute of cancer, and it's just unacceptable.
You know, you mentioned the political nature of cancer funding, and of course, this in an election year, we are getting a number of questions coming in right now for you about the role of politics for a blogger and also the role of social media for a journalist who now is being pulled into the blog world and the Twitter world. One of the early questions we got from Stacy from Grind to Wine was, you know, can you tell us about balance and objectivity in the media from your perspective, particularly for a personal blogger who wants to not alienate her audience but does want to use social media, and at the same time, can a journalist use social media in an effective, unbiased way to cover the election?
Well, I mean, what's very interesting is television news has changed so dramatically with the advent of all these cable channels. What's happened is niche programming has develop. So if you're liberal, you watch MSNBC. If you're conservative, you watch Fox. And CNN is now trying to find its way in this new universe where objectivity, and straight news reporting is starting to decline, or at least interest in that kind of reporting. And all I can say is I think advocacy journalism is fine if that's what you want to do. And I think that as a consumer of journalism, it's really critically important that you don't gravitate completely to blogs or to sites or to writers who just simply are reflecting back at you your own point of view. I try to read the New York Times editorial page and the Wall Street Journal editorial page, which are miles apart often on things like healthcare reform, so I can understand different perspectives. And I think that part of the polarization of our country is that people actually do have very different philosophical outlooks on things like the role of government or on various social issues. But I think that we need to be more respectful and at least listen to people and hear them out instead of dig our heels in and automatically create this antagonistic environment, And I just feel like sort of the lack of civil discourse has become an oxymoron in our country, and I think it's such a shame because I think it's so critically important to respect people who may have a different point of view than you do, and also try to understand that point of view, even if you do agree to disagree. And that's how I've always approached my job. And I think, the one criticism is that when journalism does on one hand this, on the other hand that, and somehow the search for truth or the striving to actually find the truth and the facts gets kind of abdicated by showing two sides of the story, then that is when I think we have not done our jobs as journalists.
The sins of even-handedness,
Yeah,
right?
right.
So that said, you won a Walter Cronkite Award for your interview of Sarah Palin in the last election. It was a pivotal interview, and Natalie, many people have asked this question, but Natalie Wardell wants to know, what were you feeling when you interviewed her?
Well, I was the third network anchor to do an interview with Governor Palin. Charlie Gibson did the first one up in Wasilla, and then I think Sean Hannity did a short one on Fox. And so they had made a decision in the campaign that Governor Palin would talk to network anchors and was not going to do a ton of interviews. So a lot of people didn't know very much about her at that point in the election, in the campaign, when I think I did the interview in late September. And she had visited world leaders at the United Nations that day. And so I wanted to focus a little on foreign policy for the first interview, and then we did domestic issues when I interviewed her in Ohio about a week later. And, I really just wanted to allow her to reveal her philosophical stance on a variety of issues and to give people an idea of how she would govern and sort of what she was all about. And so during the interview, I actually felt bad for her because she was clearly having a hard time. I think you have to have ice water running through your veins to not be sitting across from someone and to see them. I think, she was just having a difficult time expressing herself. I think, and I think the questions I asked were really fair. They required, I think, perspective, accumulated knowledge, and sort of an analytical, an ability to be analytical. And I just thought she was having a very hard time. So I felt bad about it, but I also thought it was a really important thing to be able to ask her the same kinds of questions I would ask any candidate, male or female. And that, I was doing my job. So I felt, on a personal level, I felt terrible for her because I thought she wasn't performing very well. And on a professional level, I thought, well, this person is going to be a heartbeat away from the president, for a man who's going to be the oldest president ever elected in history, who's had melanoma several times. And this is a really important thing for me to do to at least allow voters to understand who was on the ticket.
Great. I was thinking about that interview, and then I was fascinated because I've been following you on Twitter closely, and there was a great, actually on Instagram, picture of you talking to Gloria Steinem right after Anne-Marie Slaughter's article about women and balance and motherhood came out in The Atlantic. You all read, some of you read that article where she wrote about how, I don't want to do the article injustice, but she wrote about how she thinks that women really can't have it all. And you were bent over and your famous legs are crossed and you've got your glasses in your hand and you're like talking to Gloria and Gloria's looking at you and it's this moment of concern. And I was like, wow, I can't believe that they're talking about this article at the same time I've been like this with my sisters about it. What did you think of that article? And I want to put it in the context of a great question I got from Lisa Noel 3, who writes, as a mother of teenagers, how do you balance all the demands on your life and all you've done as a professional with the role of being a mother? And how do you feel, since we're now on Katie and we can talk about our feelings again, how do you feel when other women tell you about being a mom?
When they tell me
Tell you about being a mom, or what it's like to be a mother, or describe all of motherhood in an article and put us all in one box.
Okay. Well, do you want to talk about the Anne-Marie Slaughter article quickly? Or?
I do.
Yeah.
I want your opinions on it, but
Well, I thought she made some valid points about the stress and difficulty of working and raising kids. And I thought one of the most important things about that article was it started a conversation again about, I can't stand these proclamations about women can't have it all. I feel like every woman needs to decide and figure out, it's hard enough, what works for her and her family without everybody passing judgment on them. And I just feel like at some point, we need to get beyond these culture wars, if you want to call them that, or mommy wars, or all that BS that people seem to get dragged down into, But I think what was interesting is I interviewed Anne-Marie at the Aspen Ideas Festival, and she's an incredible woman and so talented and smart. But I think she told me that a lot of CEOs and corporate leaders were calling her after that article came out to talk about how can we make the workplace a more hospitable place, not only for working mothers, but working fathers too. And still some of these old rules apply, like, how important FaceTime is. And, we've kind of gotten beyond, I thought we'd gotten beyond that, especially with the advent of technological tools that allow us to work and not be sitting in our cubicle. But, I just think that, it's good to start a conversation. And, I read that article and I was struck by this ACLU Foundation in Massachusetts came up with family-friendly policies that would allow people, men and women, male and female employees, to take time off to care for an aging parent or to help a child who was sick. And I just think we need to be, hopefully as a society, more mindful of the demands, the important demands of being a member of a family, raising a family, whether you're a mother or a father. And in terms of me, I always felt a little uncomfortable with the, how do you do it question, because first of all, Brian Williams never gets asked that. Secondly, I think one of the major criticisms of Anne-Marie Slaughter's article was we're talking about pretty high-class problems. And a lot of the women in this country are not in a position of being a tenured professor at Princeton or getting, having a two-career income, with a mother and father both bringing in a paycheck. And a lot of women in lower socioeconomic levels, those are the women we should be thinking about helping and changing policy for. So, but for me, I'm lucky because, I am very, and I'm sure you read, it's not always right, but I'm very well compensated. And even though as a single mother, I could afford to have a live-in nanny who was like my wife and who I feel so indebted to, because I think I give her so much credit because my girls are nice people. They're nice people with good values and considerate, and they're motivated. So I feel so lucky that, they've turned out the way they have, and I give a lot of credit to Lori Beth, who lived with us for 10 years and was, could totally back me up and take care of things that I didn't have time to do. Plus, when I was on the Today Show, I could get home at 2 in the afternoon and pick up Carrie from school. I could hang out. I could be there when they had their piano lessons. So I feel very lucky, and I feel like my case is very unusual.
How old are the girls now?
Ellie just turned 21, so she's legal.
Oh, no.
Very excited about that. And Carrie is 16, and she's going to be a junior in high school. So they're great, and I'm actually going to be being with them all weekend. Ellie was in LA for the summer. She's going to be a senior in college, and she went for a job in LA for an internship. And so she just got home at 6:15 this morning. She went immediately to see her boyfriend. And but we're all going to be together this weekend. So they're just great, and I feel like, they're my best accomplishment.
So are your daughters interested in politics or journalism? Pundit Mom wants to know.
It's kind of upsetting, but no. I'm like, what? I think they're still finding their way. I think Ellie's an American Studies major, which I was as well. And, I'm going to actually spend some time talking with her now that she's home about kind of what she might want to do. My husband was a lawyer, and for a while she was interested in going to law school, but I'm not sure if she really truly is passionate about the law, And, I go back and forth about whether it's helpful to have a law degree when you pursue other things. So I've talked to people about that, and there's a real divergence of opinion on that. And Carrie said she wants to be a teacher, which I think would be a wonderful thing.
Woo! She has some mentors
Some
here in the
teachers
audience.
in the house. So she's very socially conscious and a very, very impressive young woman at 16. She just got back from Laos and Thailand, where she spent a lot of time building wells for villagers and things like that. Things that I would be like, check please. I just my idea of roughing it is the Holiday Inn. Seriously.
Well, I gotta say, I don't know if I buy that, because I have a lot of questions here and on the site.
There are not bloggers from the Holiday Inn here, are there? I once said that and actually got in a little trouble, so.
No, but
They sent me a towel.
I am overwhelmed with questions about your guns.
My guns?
Your guns. I'm getting question after question.
Where is that? Is that question? Yeah. No, honestly, I know people think I'm like pumping iron 2 hours a day. You know what the truth is? I was a gymnast when I was younger. I have the classic mesomorphic physique, which, well, anyway, it's the muscular one, and not the tall, lithe one, unfortunately. And so I just, I do try to exercise. I found an exercise regimen that finally works for me, because I'm an inherently lazy person. Like if I'm running and I'm starting to, oh, here for the lazy people. The lazy bloggers are over there. But I've started spinning, and I just want to say to all you ladies out there,
Very cool.
it's a very efficient workout. I think, I don't sweat much just in general, but in spinning I do, and I can't, it's not one of those things you can say, I'm tired, I'm going to stop, because that's the way I am for pretty much all forms of exercise. But it's 45 minutes, you get it done, and they actually do some arm stuff while you're spinning. I know it's not that hard. It's very intimidating initially. And I go to this place called Flywheel here in New York City that was started by a friend of mine. And it's just a great form of exercise. And I think, I'm 55. I am smack in the middle. Can I talk to you all? I'm smack in the middle of menopause, which just sucks. And, I'm up at 3:30 every morning playing Words with Friends because I don't know what else to do. And I went to the ophthalmologist. I was like, and he's a friend of mine. I was like, dude, my eyes are so dry. He's like, menopause. I was like, really? Are you serious? So So I really kind of am, and everybody says, oh, you go through menopause and you get really fat and your middle gets big. And I'm like, I'm starting the show. What am I going to do? So I have been actually very conscious in the last probably 6 months or so about really trying to exercise regularly and trying to watch my diet. I'm not that good at it. I do Weight Watchers, sort of, kind of, sort of. And I start every morning on Weight Watchers. I end every day off Weight Watchers. But I actually think the good thing about that program, it does make you more mindful about like what you're eating and the portion size. And, you know, I like to get on my soapbox for a minute, but I think dieting is making people fat because I think people have this attitude. I don't know if you guys do this, but we're so hard on ourselves. And if we are not like eating super, super healthy and a super amount of calories, like let's say we eat a chocolate chip cookie. I don't know about you, but I'm like, oh, well, I blew it today. I'm going to have 12 chocolate chip cookies. So I think that kind of attitude is really destructive. So I think with Weight Watchers, it just has helped me be smarter about, okay, I had a cookie. That's probably not so great. That's probably, 6 points, but I get 49 extra for the week, so I'll just put in that little column. So I'm just a little less regimented, and as a result, if I fall off the wagon, I don't, eat everything that's not nailed down.
So you're really calling to something that Daryl Pollock, Daryl, you spoke today. We spoke on a panel about the growing invisibility of women as we age.
Hey, that's good. All right. Thanks, Daryl. I read Daryl's post in the Huffington Post, by the way, so I thought it was good. Hi, Daryl. How are you?
We feel like, Daryl's asking, as older women, we feel like we're being marginalized or ignored. And can you offer your whole gung-ho attitude and your decision to take charge of fitness is, I think, personally a big inspiration. But what would take away some of
and what?
And ignored.
Well, the hell with that. I don't think that's true. I mean, I think that, first of all, baby boomers, of which I am one, is a very huge and powerful group of individuals. And I think, you can't buy into that you're being marginalized. I think you have to be as vibrant and involved as ever and take chances. And I just feel like, you just can't buy into that whole rap about getting older. I mean, I feel really energetic and healthy. I feel like I'm in good shape. I feel like I have a lot to offer. When I went around talking about my new show, this woman, a radio reporter, who was ironically about my age, said to me, oh, you've done really well. You're 55. Why don't you just retire and move to the south of France? And I was like, because I don't want to. I feel like I have a lot to offer, and I feel like everybody my age has a lot to offer. We have experience and wisdom. And, I feel like I'm a better journalist now than I was, in my 30s and even in my 40s, that I've had more life experiences, that I'm smarter, I've learned more along the way. And so I just feel like a lot of it really is in your attitude and and I think if you feel marginalized, you project being marginalized or you project being ignored. And I just think you kind of ignore it.
There you go, the bearded iris. There's her advice on how to do that. Janine Baird wants to know if you've ever thought of running for office.
If elected, no. No, actually my oldest sister, who passed away about 11 years ago, was running for lieutenant governor when she was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and everyone said she was going to be the first female governor of Virginia, which would have been so exciting. My fantasy was going to be to interview my sister when that happened, but that wasn't to be. And she was an amazing public servant and just an incredible woman. And people have suggested that to me, but honestly, I don't know how anyone in a million years, I admire people who put themselves in that position. But politics has become such a blood sport. I wouldn't want to really be involved in running for office. And that's a sad commentary, and I think a lot of people feel that way.
I think when we look at some of the questions that are coming in here
Are they scary?
No, there is so much interesting commentary about will you, in a daytime day part, be able to take on the hard news the way you continually do in your conversation. Have you ever been called a policy wonk? Like,
No,
I think
I've
you're-
never been called a policy
I think
wonk,
you have
but-
a huge policy orientation. Almost every comment you made, you've been talking about policy. Is that going to be okay on a daytime day part?
Well, I think, I talk about policy and how can we live better lives and how can we all work together to either change things or understand things or change things in our own home or operate differently that will make us more effective parents, effective workers, effective friends. So I don't really see it as policy. I feel it's just sort of like evaluating the way we lead our lives. So, but I think I am going to talk about serious issues on my show, as I said, and I'm just really, really keeping my fingers crossed that people want a smart conversation, because if they don't, then they don't.
Do we
and I
want a
won't-
smart conversation? Do we want a smart conversation? Do women want to know more than how to make a chicken in 5 minutes? I mean, right? I think that you're...
Well, like friends of mine will say to me, I mentioned the Aspen Ideas Festival, and I have a friend who goes there, pretty regularly, and there are all kinds of different panels, maybe on women and minimum wage or on all sorts of different issues. I did one on overparenting this year, and she said to me, why don't we ever see anything like that on television? And I said, that's a good question, and that's why I feel like, I think if you can do it in an engaging, fun way that's not kind of all high and mighty and preachy, which I don't want to be. I want us to all kind of figure it out together, that if you can do it in an entertaining way, then it can be an incredibly compelling program that you walk away from and say, gosh, I never thought about that, or I'm going to use this in my life to change something I'm doing, or, this is going to inform how I feel about X, Y, or Z. And, that's what I want to do. And that I want, it struck me when I was reading Daryl's piece in the Huffington Post about sort of what BlogHer is and what blogs are, and about they give voice to people and they allow them to be authentic. And authentic is kind of taken a bum rap lately, is kind of overused. But, I have to be true to myself and the things that interest me and the things that I think are important that are worthy of a conversation or a discussion, and just trust that other people feel that way too. What else can I do, right?
You're sitting in a room of writers, people who have started along their path of building their own personal brands and finding their own voice, both in social media and in their own blogs. Is there any advice that you've gotten that you would share, or that you have found really works for you? Mimi 2410 wants to know.
Who does?
Mimi 2410.
Okay, Mimi. Mimi. I think for me, throughout my career, I've just tried not to be anything but the person I am. And, when I got the job on the Today Show, I thought, gosh, I should probably watch videotapes of Jane Pauley, because she was so good in that role. And then I thought, I'm not going to do that, because she's a completely different person than I am. And I don't want to imitate her. I want to be who I am and bring my own sensibilities and my own personality to the genre. And so I didn't do that. And, then I thought, oh, Bryant Gumbel's really into sports. I better study sports so I know much more about it, because I'm kind of a moron in that department. And then I thought, you know what? A lot of people don't know that much about sports. Why am I pretending to suddenly be a sportscaster? So I've kind of just, through the years, just tried to rely on my gut and be the person I am and not be affected by what I think people think I should be, or what a voice inside me tells me I should be, if that makes sense. So,
Well, can you give us any hints on what we're going to see starting September 10th?
if I told you, I'd have to kill you. No, I hope you all will watch. I hope you'll let me know how you feel about it and the kinds of things you'd like us to take a look at on the show. I think, I'm really, really excited. We've got some incredible guests lined up. I have always been very moved by the stories of ordinary people, who have shown extraordinary personal courage in the face of adversity and come through the other side. And, you know, I think there will be a lot of people who are very inspiring. I want to bring attention to issues that I don't think get enough attention. And I think, you know, sometimes everything is so fragmented, you know, and some people may see this, some people may see that. I don't know how. I feel like I'm just being swept away in a tsunami of information every day. So if we can kind of come together and be a community where we can take a look at certain issues and, you know, have enough time to really explore them, then I'll feel like I'm doing a good job if I can sort of help people aggregate and kind of cut through the clutter and hear the important things that they really need to know and provide a framework for that, then I'll feel like I'm really, really serving people in a way, as corny as that sounds.
Well, I think you are really showing how willing you are to interview and be interested in the lives of everyday women by being here today. I think it's a fantastic compliment to this community. And for 8 years now, we've asked you all who you wanted to see, who you wanted to hear from. And you've been at the top of that list for 8 years.
Well,
so
thank
you.
you. Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming.
I'm taking these shoes off as soon as I get home, and my flip-flops are going on, so don't you worry.
I have to say, I just can't thank you enough. And I asked your producers backstage if women in this community wanted to be two of the bloggers on your show. They wanted to write for @KatieCouric or @KatieShow or KatieCouric.com.
Yeah.
And I was told that if you will tweet @KatieShow, you can recommend yourself, a storyline, a blog post, or even offer to live blog on the show.
And can I just say, I think it's fantastic what you all are doing, that you're, you know, first of all, a lot of you are really great writers, so I enjoy reading your blogs, but just the fact that, you know, you're putting yourself out there, you're sharing things with people, and I think, you know, sometimes I just think the internet has just been an instrument of extraordinary change, in some cases not great change, because, you know, I think it has unleashed a lot of anonymous vitriol from all corners, and some of the things that people tweet me, I just can't even believe. You know, I spend a lot of time block, but because I'm going to block his ass. But I just want to
Say No to the Trolls by Katie Couric.
But
Say No
I
to the
just think
Trolls.
it's great, because I do think one of the wonderful things is that this has provided this entire community of people who can share things with other people, and everyone can use each other as resources and come together. And, you know, I just feel like it's also a very supportive environment for women. And so I'm just really grateful that you all have taken the opportunity to use this as a platform, and I just want to congratulate you and say, keep it up. I think it's fantastic.
Thank
so.
you. Please help me thank Katie Couric. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you
Lisa.
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.